Judy Solis here, and welcome to another segment of Judy's EcoVentures. And today I handpicked Amber Lorac to join me as a special guest. She's a vet tech, she's a writer, she's a host of a podcast, she travels the world, she does everything, which is why obviously I picked you to be here. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us a little bit about your experience and your journey as all those things I just mentioned.
Of course, of course.
Yes.
So yeah, I am a licensed vet tech. So I was a vet tech for about 5 years, but just with a passion for traveling the world. I went to Thailand in 2015 and fell in love with traveling. I decided that I needed to do whatever I could to make sure I could make this my life, and worked my way into being a full-time writer. So now I write for multiple pet health websites, fun-loving pet websites, things that have just happy stories, whatever it is, I do it. So I'm able to take my laptop with me and work while I'm also volunteering at animal rescues abroad.
Now, I know we spoke briefly before the interview, and we did have a few things in common where we spoke about combining both worlds, so our profession and our purpose. So tell us a little bit about how you combine both worlds.
I started off, my first trip was in 2015 when I volunteered at the Elephant Nature Park in Thailand, and I knew that I loved traveling, but I love writing. I've always loved writing. So once I felt a bit confident in my online work, I started reaching out to like pet health websites. And fast forward to now, and I have a long list of clients that I write for full time. So I get to take my work with me, and that helps me travel comfortably and be able to do the work that I do. So I get to do that, and then at the same time, volunteering is, my life's purpose.
Tell us where you have traveled to. I mean, you were recently in Ecuador, I believe, right?
Yes,
that's fun.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. I mostly have traveled Southeast Asia. I traveled Cambodia. Cambodia is just my favorite place in the world. I love it. Thailand about 4 times, and then Ecuador. It was amazing. I spent about 3 months in Ecuador. I was in Quito and Cotacachi. It's just so incredible to see different animal welfare practices in different parts of the world. They do things in a very different way, but it's always efficient on their own terms. And there's so many animals that need help. And because of that, there's so many people that are so deeply passionate about helping them.
In places like Cambodia or even Ecuador, what are some of the most difficult cases or missions you come across?
Lack of education around animal care. I hardly ever see outright abuse, outright neglect. That's really rare, and I know that's what a lot of us think. But most of what I see is just an animal missing out on basic veterinary care and kind of suffering because of that. So most of what I deal with is just proper education to locals around town, and also spreading awareness on how we can help back home.
Now, we spoke about cultural differences, right?
Yeah.
And I have an experience with that as well, or many experiences. The slaughter of pigs and goats, and like they do it in your backyard. And do you experience that when you go to different countries, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I do a lot. I struggled with it a lot. That's probably the hardest part for me about traveling. But I have learned that anytime you see any type of act that seems cruel to you, there's always a lot of layers to it. For example, I know Southeast Asia has a stigma of being really cruel to animals or just not helping them. And what I have learned is that, it's a rabies endemic country, and about 1,000 people a year die in Cambodia alone from rabies. So many family members have ingrained it into their minds because they have a family member that's died from rabies. So they pass on this fear of animals. So I accompany people on missions. I work with animal rescues, and I can help to inform them on proper animal care, and that's more effective too.
Now, the organizations that you work with, do they have specific missions in place where not only are you guys catering to the animals, but also educating the locals?
Of course, yeah. And those are the organizations that I love working with, because they're the ones that make the most impact. So many of these rescues, I think every single one that I've worked with, they do a lot of outreach that involves going directly out to villages. That we went to a place in Kosadak in Cambodia that they had never seen a veterinarian ever. So we just went up and down the streets, vaccinating animals, desexing animals for free, telling them why it's important, and they had no idea that these procedures existed. And going back to these communities, not just going once and never going again, making a relationship with everybody and making sure that this is something that's put into their normal practice.
Now, how do non-vets help out? So for instance, when I go to different countries and I see stray dogs or I see dogs in need, it kills me not to do something about it, but I'm not necessarily sure on what I can do. I went to the Philippines, and it was supposed to be this magical island, but there were so many strays. So I spent most of my days there looking up rescues. I think I spoke to the mayor, and there was one particular dog that I still, till this day, I knew he needed help. So I called a rescue and they did come, but we couldn't get him. So how can someone like myself, when I travel abroad and I come across stray dogs or ill dogs, how can I help?
So, well, first it sounds like, what you did, reaching out to all the different rescues in the area. But sometimes as travelers, you have to accept, it's really hard, is that we don't always get to help that animal in that moment. But what we can do moving forward is help animals like them. And you can do that by you can volunteer while you're there with that rescue if you have the time. You can just get their social media information, spread awareness to your friends. You can help, you can donate to them. And most of the good work that rescues do is because there's awareness about what they're doing. Maybe go home and think about, maybe my next trip will strictly be a volunteer trip.
Right.
And you can help them wash the dogs. You can help them do basic medications. You can socialize the animals. You can help them find fosters.
Health insurance or pet insurance is huge now. What do we do with advocating, situations where it's microchipping or, like I said, pet insurance or things like that? Is that ever mentioned in underdeveloped countries?
In underdeveloped countries, those don't really exist, but what do exist are animal rescues that offer free care to families that can't afford it, or they'll just accept anything. For example, a family might come in with a sick dog and say, I have $5. They'll take that. But another great thing is a lot of the rescues that I work with, they'll have certain days where things are free. Like, for example, Paw's Animal Clinic I worked with in Cambodia.
Okay.
Every Friday they did free rabies vaccinations and free desexing.
Now, I know you began a podcast, and I've listened to it. It's so good, so everyone has to check it out.
So it is called Let's Travel Vet Med Style, and basically it's geared for veterinary professionals that want to travel in vet med and specifically volunteering with animal rescue. So we just try to give information on like what a typical spay and neuter mission looks like, what diseases you may see when you're abroad, how to find the best animal rescue to work with, how to plan your trip.
It does help to know where to go, what to do, who to speak to, what organizations you can, reach out to, different resources. Even the solo travel, on a budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that is helpful. You are a vet tech, but you're actually a writer.
I also write for I Heart Dogs, where we just write fun-loving animal stories. They also allow me to write my Amber Abroad series, where I'm documenting animal rescues around the world. So in Ecuador, I was working with Amici Canis Animal Hospital, and it's actually a veterinarian, Heather Stein, from the States. She retired, moved over here with her husband, who is also a board-certified radiologist for animals, so they're a power couple, the definition of it. But they opened up an animal clinic in Cotacachi, Ecuador, and they're basically working with surrounding indigenous communities, working with the local street animals.
Amber, thank you so much for coming and speaking with me today. I've learned so much just from this conversation alone. I hope the audience does too. I hope you had a good time.
I did, it was so much fun.
Good, good. Now, tell us what you're doing next. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to follow along on my adventures, my Instagram is Vet Tech and Travel. I share a lot of stuff about just the current work that I'm doing, the missions I'm on.
So make sure you check out Judy Soul on YouTube. I'll also put it on my Instagram, Judy Soul TV. And make sure you follow us for more content like this and more inspiring people like Amber.